Hello everyone and welcome to the Carbon Design Kit with Sketch Libraries tutorial. My name is Taylor Aiken and I'm a visual designer on the Carbon Design System team. And we just wanted to give you guys a tutorial on how to use Sketch Libraries with Carbon. We recently released a new version of the design kit, version 8.1.0, and the big addition from 8.0.0 is that we added sketch libraries. And this library contains all of the Carbon components, which will be really helpful for designers' workflow and designing more efficiently. So in this tutorial, we'll be going over how to download and where to save the Carbon sketch file, how to import the Carbon sketch library. We'll also be giving an overview on how we have the Carbon library set up and how to upgrade to a new kit version when we release it. I'm just going to start out by showing you guys how to get to our kit online. You can do it two different ways. The easiest way, I think, is going to carbondesignsystem.com, and then the left-hand nav, we have a button that links out to our GitHub repo. You can also just go directly to the repo itself if you already have it saved. And then within the repo itself, there's two different ways to download. You can click the clone or download button right here. And you don't have to have a GitHub account to access this. You can, anyone can get to it. And you can click download zip. And this will download the entire repo. And if you're not interested in having like all the previous releases of the Carbon kit, 'cause that's a pretty hefty download, you can also go to this releases button right here. And you can just download the latest version of the kit or any of the pieces within this release that you want to have. You will also find all of the documentation for this release. So any new components, plugins we've added, items we've deprecated, bug fixes, etc. So for now though, I'm just going to download it from the other page. Now that I have the Carbon kit downloaded, I'm going to show you guys how to save it. So if you navigate to your downloads folder, I highly recommend you not keeping this folder there. It will help with updating purposes in the future, which I'll get into later in the tutorial. So for now, I'm just going to move that file onto my desktop, and I'm going to unzip it. Okay, get rid of that. And I'm going to give you a quick overview of what is in this file. If you downloaded the entire repo and you don't want all of the old previous releases or any of our code of conduct stuff, you can actually probably just get rid of this. Or if you want, you could just pull the folder out that you want and delete the master file. So within this kit file, you'll notice that the kit has the version number on it, but the file does not. We used to have the version number in the file, but again, because of the updating purposes and having your library sync automatically, we decided to take the version number out. If you have more questions about that, feel free to contact us, but it's a conscious decision. So please note the number on your file. That's how you'll know what version you're on. And so within this kit file folder, you have the Carbon Design Kit sketch file. You have the Carbon Palette zip, which you can unzip, and then also the Sketch Palettes plugin. This is a new plugin that we're including with our kit download. Basically, once you add the plugin, you have access to 4 of our Carbon palettes. You can easily import them into any design file for Sketch. We found that a lot of people were copying and pasting from our website, which we know can be a big pain, so we wanted to make them a lot more readily accessible for you guys. Before I dive into how to import the Carbon sketch library, I just wanted to show you guys where it would appear and what it looks like before and after so you guys know if it imported properly. So it will appear up in the insert menu, and you'll notice that they actually added a new section right here where they have a preloaded library called iOS UI design. And you can kind of start to see how library is set up, which I will get into more specifics later about how we set up the Carbon library. And you know that it's a library based off of this little icon here. That kind of like linked icon is the same way they indicate library symbols in the layer palette. So that's a really good indication. So now that you know where it is, I'm going to show you how to import it. So you're going to have to do is go up to Sketch Preferences or Command Comma on the keyboard and navigate to the Libraries tab. Here you'll see that that iOS library that I just showed you is already checked. If you don't want that to show up anymore, all you have to do is uncheck it. And to add the Carbon library, all you have to do is click the Add Library button and navigate to wherever you had saved the Carbon Design Kit folder. And it's actually just the Carbon Design Sketch Kit. So the kit that we usually share out that has all of our pages documenting our style, it's the same file. Sketch has the ability to take any symbols within a sketch file and convert them into a library, and that's exactly what's happening here. So you're just going to select the file and push open, and it might take a second to load, but then it'll pop up and it's checked so you know that it's already been imported. It's that easy, and then all you have to do is go up to Insert, and now you can see that the Carbon Design Kit is there and present. I also wanted to show a quick shortcut because once you really have integrated using the library into your system, going up to Insert and then down here and kind of going through all the flyout menus can be quite a pain. So I wanted to show a bit of a shortcut to getting to that. If you go up to View and down to Customize Toolbar, Sketch will kind of go into this sort of toolbar edit mode. And as you can see, your toolbar shows like a bunch of gaps with these little outline squares. These are places that you can add in additional toolbar icons. And all of these here are ones that can be added in. And if you click Symbol and drag it up into the toolbar and click Done, Symbol basically gets you to all those libraries a lot faster. It's just a couple less clicks. And you'll see that the Carbon Design Kit is one of the options on there. If you have any specific document symbols, there will also be another symbols section added to this. It's super helpful and makes the workflow a lot faster. I wanted to give everyone a quick overview of how we have the Carbon Sketch library set up. So again, I'm just going to go up to this newly added symbols icon in the toolbar, hover over the Carbon Design Kit, and I get an even larger menu. This houses our top 4 categories for the library. The first one is our add-on section. Recently, we pulled out some of our product-specific components. We felt like these products were too specific to IBM Cloud. Carbon has started to serve more products than just this one, and it was starting to confuse people having these components in there. So we decided to separate them out from our main library, but for the time being are still hosting them. So if you need access to any of these components, that's where they live. It's set up the same way in our design system site. The next section we have are our main components. So these are components that we felt could be used across products, like items like button, radio button, checkbox, etc. And within each component, there's another menu. And each component is broken down a little bit differently, but we tried to keep it as consistent as possible. Through our testing, we got a lot of feedback that users wanted the enabled component to be the first item on the list if possible. So an enabled component is the kind of state a component's in when it's just sitting there and the user's not interacting with it. So we made sure that enabled was the first one, and then we put any states, if something was closed, open, focus, hover, active, etc. All of those will be housed in a states section within that component. We also have another sort of section called pieces. If a symbol is made up of a bunch of smaller symbols, those smaller pieces are in this pieces section. And we'll get a little bit more into that later when I go into the kind of overview of how to use the Carbon library. And we also have variations. So data table, it's a pretty robust component. We have a lot of different sort of modifiers that can be used to create a data table for your needs. In this case, data table has different row heights, and those are split up into compact, default, short, and tall. So basically, you have the different heights for the tables here listed as different variations. And then in addition to that, we also have modifiers. So for tables, there's different sort of style elements that you can choose. So borderless, or you can have zebra striping or zebra striping and borderless. So play around with this component section. We have a lot of different options for you guys, and you can see kind of how we have everything broken down. The next section we have is hover. Since we showed a lot of states for the different components, we wanted to show those cursor changes that we implement with each of those different states. And so we wanted to include those as symbols so that you could turn them off if you needed to, or you could use them as symbols yourself when creating flows. The last section we have is UI icons, which is split up into two sections: glyphs, which are our really small solid icons that are 16 pixels, and icons, which are our larger icons that are solid but can also have like an outline to them. And I wanted to make note that all of our icons come in several different colors, and this was done intentionally to easily allow you to swap out to indicate different states. They mostly come in Brando 1, Brando 2, and UI 5. And I think a couple of them have a few extra colors because we knew that there were scenarios where those colors would be used. So now we're going to get into the basic capabilities of sketch libraries and go into the overrides panel more and how to use it. And for that, we're going to use a progress indicator as an example, and we're going to use the enabled version of this component. So as soon as I drop this component down on my artboard, you'll see that I have a whole new section in the right-hand panel. I'm just going to kind of go over what each of those items in the panel means. So at the very top, you have this drop down. It's really kind of hard to see in this example, but right here, there's a very faint sort of mini version of the symbol. So you can kind of have a visual indicator as well as the name of that symbol. So this drop down right here basically represents the overall symbol from the library that is being shown. Underneath that is the override section. This section shows all of the nested symbols and text overrides that this larger symbol has. So in this case, the first line is a nested symbol, which is indicated by this drop down. And if you were to go into it, you can see all of the other possible symbols that can be swapped out for this nested symbol. So in this case, you can kind of use the naming too to see which sort of symbols go with this, which nested symbols go with this overall symbol. And in this case, you can see it's currently just a check mark, and I'm going to switch it to the dot, and you can see where it's been affected. The next line is a text override. The text box basically just indicates that text can be changed. So if you go here, actually we're going to call it first step. And you can see the very first label. Once I push enter, you'll see that the text is easily changed. The point of this overrides panel is so that designers can easily customize each of these symbols to their basic needs as opposed to detaching from the symbol. Libraries and the way they're built are really meant to prevent people from detaching from the symbol, because then you have it kind of defeats the purpose of the library. So I really encourage designers to use this overrides panel as much as possible. So to kind of illustrate the capabilities and how far the overrides panel can be pushed, we're going to kind of create a couple different variations of this progress indicator. So let's start out by saying that we actually have 5 steps. So I'm going to edit the text overrides to have the step names. So as you can see, though, we're actually missing a 5th step. So what we're going to do is go into the symbols and go back down to progress indicator to the section called pieces. We created pieces for this very purpose so that you could add more symbols to an already dedicated symbol. So in this case, we're going to add another future step. I'm going to go to the overrides. And you can see very easily without detaching from the symbol or editing the library symbol, I was able to create a fifth step and kind of change the dynamic of this component. And I'm actually going to go back in here. So say this is a 5-step UI flow and we're only on the first step. So in that case, we're going to want to switch out the second step. We want to indicate that we're still on the first step. So we're going to go back to that first component override and switch it back to the check mark. And we want to show that the second step is still in the future. So we're going to go to that second step component and we're going to switch it out for a future step. And you'll notice that even though I already had this label changed, it maintained that override when I switched out the component symbol because everything is named the same, which is super awesome. Now let's say we actually want to create, the UI flow has changed and now there's only 3 steps in the process. Very easily I can just delete that 5th step, but now how do I get rid of this 4th step? It was already a part of the enabled component. How do I go back and kind of get rid of that so it's now only 3 steps? It's actually really easy to do with symbol overrides. All you have to do is find the component in the overrides list that pertains to that step. So in this case, it's the 4th step and it's this last one down here. And I just have to switch it to none. And that completely gets rid of that step. It's a pretty new way of thinking for the way we design. I think oftentimes designers, when they want to create something, they just go out and make it and they add all the pieces onto it. Well, sometimes with symbols and using libraries, it's actually about removing items of the design to get to that desired customized outcome. It's a bit of a different mindset, and I think it'll take a few weeks of using to the library to really get into it. But I think if you can adopt this way of thinking, it'll help make your workflow a lot more efficient. Last thing I want to do in this tutorial is show you guys how to save and download the latest version of the sketch kits when we do release them, and how to make sure you get those updates in your sketch libraries when the time comes. With these updates come a really great new versioning tool from Sketch, which I'm also going to show you in this last section of the tutorial, and how do you see what's been updated and where to get those notifications as well. So diving right in here, we're going to start out with another example. In this instance, we're going to use button. And I'm going to edit this button, kind of customizing it for my own needs. And now I'm going to actually update the Carbon Design Kit. And you can kind of see once an update is made, how that affects your design files, as well as the design library. So now I'm in the Carbon Design Kit, where I'm going to change the color of buttons to show you guys how a change in the Carbon Design Kit library will affect your use of the library. So I'm going to change the primary button to like a really bright pink. And you can already see kind of any other symbols that are using this as sort of a nested symbol are already being affected. I think this one should, yeah, primary button over here should be affected as well. And then I'm also going to change secondary to cool. Again, you can see how it's affected. So now I'm going to jump over to the other tutorial document I was working before to show you guys how changing something in the design kit sketch file affects the design kit library. So in order to access those new updates that I created to the Carbon Design Kit file, somebody would have to go to our repo and re-download the file with the new updated changes. I've already done the download. I just wanted to show you kind of the process of replacing the file. So I'm going to go to my downloads folder and I'm going to copy the kit. And then I'm going to navigate to wherever I ended up saving the Carbon Design Kit folder file that first time I downloaded it. And then I'm going to navigate to wherever the sketch file is directly, and I'm going to I copied it before, Command C, and now I'm going to Command V to paste it. And it's asking if I want to replace the old Carbon Design sketch kit with the new one. And I'm going to say replace. This means that all those updates will automatically sync. And this is because it's named the exact same thing. You guys don't have to go in and import the library again. So now I'm going to open that tutorial file I was working in before. And I see that the new pink buttons haven't kind of come into effect yet. That's done quite intentionally. Sketch has a really new awesome way of versioning kit updates. For any component that has been updated and is in use in your specific sketch file, the updates will not be reflected yet. They do this so that you can control when you update to the latest version. Any components that have been updated that are not currently in use in your file, you should see them updated up in the sketch libraries symbols section. So if we go to that secondary button, you'll see it's already been updated. Now, how do I update my components and symbols that are already in use? Well, you just have to go up to this library update available notification in the top right-hand corner of Sketch. And when you click on it, a modal should pop up. And in the left-hand column, it will basically list all the components in use in your document and tell you and show you what changes have been made. You can either go through and batch select and click all of them, or you can kind of pick and choose which ones you want, depending on where you're at with your designs. And if you're ready to accept the changes, you just click Update Symbols, and the change happens. Super simple, super easy. I've included kind of step-by-step instructions written out in our repo, and please take a look if you have more questions on that.